Yeah, they're meeting. They're meeting at the NFL Combine this week. Now, the report says no deal is imminent. The Lions have made it clear they intend to invest in their own players this season. Again, from the story, St. Brown entering his fourth NFL season in line for a multi-year extension that will make him one of the highest-paid receivers in football. Tied for second in the NFL, 119 receptions, finished third with 1,515 yards. Top contracts for receivers have soared in recent years, with 14 pass catchers averaging at least $20 million on their contracts, and Tyreek Hill making the position best $30 million per season. Okay, so there's a few things about this. One is, I think we're all thumbs up. I can't imagine that there is a scintilla of a percent of Lions fans that don't want to see Amon-Ra back.
You have got to want him back. He is if you think Goff is the leader on offense, I'm not going to fight you on that. But maybe the most valuable piece could be Amon-Ra St. Brown, because he is a calming influence. He catches just about everything that's thrown to him. He gets yards after reception, fights for first downs. He is a dog who has a giant chip on his shoulder. He's gotten better each year he's been in the league, from 900 yards to 1,100 yards to 1,500 yards, from 5 touchdowns to 6 touchdowns to 10 touchdowns, from 90 receptions his rookie year to 106 to 119. This guy is a star player and needs to be paid. And it might make some people uncomfortable when you start throwing around numbers, but the number's going to start with a 2.
Yeah.
And it's not going to end at like 20. It ain't it. You're going to have to pay him like $25 million a year. So
there's a few things about this, and it's interesting just because, it varies from the topic of conversations and what drives conversation varies from position to position. But what hasn't come up is I don't think we've had one person call or say, yeah, I want Amon-Ra back, but don't overpay him. And I'm not sure why not. We do get those calls about the quarterback, and we don't get them about Amon-Ra. But there has to be a ceiling, right? What if Amon-Ra wants to be north of 30? Then that might be, that could be the ceiling. I could be like, no, I can't do that. We're not going to go there. Now, let me make the same arguments just for argument's sake here, and that is, okay, yeah, he'd be the highest paid receiver, but if he signs now, then Justin Jefferson, who's also due for a contract, will probably make more than that within, 3, 2, and 1. Like it could happen moments after Amon-Ra signs, and then with each expanding contract after that, because it's really hard to do this because it's just not as easily clear. It's more about the percentage of the cap that you take up than the actual, whatever the total is. And with the cap going up, whatever you'd earmarked for him, 5% of your cap, but 5% of the cap goes up. Yeah, it's position group also, though. Quarterback's going to play. If you're going to pay Jared Goff $45 million a year, you're going to be paying him well into his 30s because he's, 29 right now. Yep. Do you want it? I'm not going to necessarily want to pay a wide receiver his top dollar while he's in his 30s. This is the time that you get them. Right now, these are the peak years he gets, I guess. So do you start thinking of it, okay, what's the length of the contract? He's 24 years old. You really don't like to pay receivers north of 30. So does he get a 4-year deal? Does he get a 5-year deal? I would, given his age, I think he deserves it. Now, here's the other thing. You tack the more years on it, and then maybe that average per year can come down a little bit if you tack more years on it. It always depends on what the player wants and what, if it is in line with what the team wants. It's interesting because, you've got sort of bullet points underneath, and I'll give the guy on Twitch that posted this credit. It was one of the bullet points, but it was Kitech wrote the following: Amon-Ra believes he's the best wide receiver in the league and expects to be paid like one. And that's part of, I wonder how much this figures into negotiation. I think he does think he's the best wide receiver in the league. So why wouldn't he ask for best wide receiver money? And if he asks to be the highest paid receiver in the league, what do you do? Do you just say, okay? Or, is that just, is it a trick he can play in his mind? He asks for that, but really
he wants to remain having that chip on his shoulder.
I doubt he wants to keep the chip on the shoulder at the expense of his own bank account. You think he wants to be intentionally underpaid?
I wouldn't imagine, but I think some people are just wired differently. And this guy is clearly wired.
That would be very different.
He's wired a little bit differently. But, I mean, whatever motivates you, I guess. And it feels like, okay, if is the motivation completely cut off then? Hey, you just proved everybody wrong. I know that there were all these receivers drafted ahead of you. You wanted to prove everybody wrong. You did that with your play. And now you're going to get it with your pay.
I had a theory.
I'm just holding it open as a possibility.
Yeah,
okay, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I don't think it's likely, but certainly we peel the onion, give things a 360. Because I had a theory that the Pistons, the going to work Pistons, please don't honor them in the All-Star game. I was always like, no, don't. Everybody's like, there should be All-Stars. I'm like, I like it that they're not, because they're pissed off about it. And eventually they were honored in the All-Star game, and it happened to coincide with the beginning of a slide. Now, it was probable that the slide was going to happen regardless, because they were all getting up there in age and people were maybe catching up to their style a little bit. But at the end of the day, I just don't know that I can foresee a Lions future moving forward without Amon-Ra St. Brown.
I think he's vitally important to this team working with Jared Goff. I think, those guys came up with this team together. Obviously, Goff had played in the league a few years, but when he got to the Lions, it was completely new to him. Everything was new. And he comes in and immediately has a connection with the rookie wide receiver to the tune of 90 receptions that year. And they've just grown since then. I like it. But I look at this too. As much as I like Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's not the best receiver in football. Mm-hmm. He's definitely in the top 10, and he's fighting to be in the top 5, but he's not the best. As much as I like Jared Goff, he's not the best quarterback in football. He's definitely top 10 and maybe fighting to be close to the top 5, but he ain't the top one. So they're not. They shouldn't get paid like they're the top. They're going to get paid handsomely. But I don't think either are going to set the market.
Would anybody be opposed to top 5 money for Amon-Ra at the position, which would put him between somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 30 million?
I don't think people would. I mean, it might be. And then you start to think cap goes up every year, and he is you could argue he's a top 5 receiver in the league. Now, does he do the same things that a Justin Jefferson does or Tyreek Hill? No, but he's productive as hell, and he's gotten better every year.